I found my experience in Memphis to be quite rewarding, and one thing that stood out was definitely the music and the spirit of the people. Memphis has something very specific that I haven't seen in any of my visits anywhere throughout the country. You can take the average teenager in Memphis and they can have a great amount of knowledge between not only hip-hop, R&B, soul, jazz, the blues, and gospel. I mean, and country. And I think that intergenerational kind of discussion that the kids can have and relate to with music is something that they don't necessarily feel with the issues of Memphis in the conversation of its historic kind of significance in America as being like a pioneer in the whole issue of civil rights, and especially where Dr. King, you know, laid down his life. And I just really think it's really important for us as much as possible as we're bombarded with negativity to be proactive with, you know, some positive things to really have those real conversations and dialogue for us to build up the health of our communities wherever we are. And I think Memphis is definitely a good start, you know, in a national conversation where we are as a country right now. So I appreciate everybody for coming out, and we'll just start screening the movie.
Hello, Freedom Radio, and welcome to Memphis, Tennessee, the National Civil Rights Museum, home of the Lorraine Motel. One of the most inspiring and life-changing experiences you'll ever have. Welcome to this site that is so special and such a jewel for not just Tennessee, but for the entire world. We have visitors who come from all over the world just to see room 306, to see the balcony where Dr. King last stood on April 4th, 1968, and to witness America's civil rights story. You know, there are lots of African American museums, lots of history museums, but this site is so unique in that actual historical event happened right here in 1968, as it was Lorraine Motel, an African American owned motel where Dr. King was staying when he was assassinated. So in 1991, we opened as a museum. So the actual space that you're seeing is the original Lorraine Motel structure. Inside, however, all of the rooms have been excavated and renovated to create museum exhibition space, except for one very special room, and that is room 306. The room that King was in on April 4th, 1968. That room is as it was in 1968 when Dr. King was actually staying here in Memphis, Tennessee. It's historical in the fact that Dr. King was in Memphis to support black men who were sanitation workers for the city of Memphis who were on strike.
I got into Memphis, and some began to say the threat, or talk about the threats that were out. What would happen to me from some of our sick white brothers.
Every now and then, I guess we all think realistically about that day when we will be victimized with what is life's final common denominator. That's something that we call death. We all think about it, and every now and then I think about my own death, and I think about my own funeral, and I don't think of it in a morbid sense. And every now and then I ask myself, what is it? But I would want to say it, and I leave the word to you this morning. If any of you are around when I have to meet my day, I don't want a long funeral. And if you get somebody to deliver the eulogy, tell them not to talk too long. And every now and then I wonder what I want them to say. Tell them not to mention that I have a Nobel Peace Prize. That isn't important. Tell them not to mention that I have 300 or 400 other awards. that's not important. Tell them not to mention where I went to school. I'd like somebody to mention that day that Martin Luther King Jr. tried to give his life serving others. I'd like for somebody to say that day that Martin Luther King Jr. tried to love somebody. I want you to say that day that I tried to be right on the war question. I want you to be able to say that day that I did try to feed the hungry. I want you to be able to say that day that I did try in my life to clothe those who were naked. I want you to say on that day that I did try in my life to visit those who were in prison. I want you to say that I tried to love and serve humanity. Yes, if you want to say that I was a drum major, say that I was a drum major for justice. Say that I was a drum major for peace. I was a drum major for righteousness. And all of the other shallow things will not matter. I won't have any money to leave behind. I won't have the fine and luxurious things of life to leave behind. But I just want to leave a committed life behind. And that's all I want to say. If I can help somebody as I pass along, if I can cheer somebody with a word of song, if I can show somebody he's traveling wrong, then my living will not be in vain. If I can do my duty as a Christian ought, if I can bring salvation to a world once wrought, if I can spread the message as the Master taught, then my living will not be in vain. Yes, Jesus, I want to be on your right or your left side, not for any selfish reason. I want to be on your right or your left side, not in terms of some political kingdom or ambition, but I just want to be there in love and in justice and in truth, and in commitment.
Dr. King lost his life right here on this balcony. So it's a part of the civil rights history, but it's also a part of America's tragic story. You know what's frightening is that some young people only know Dr. King as a page in a textbook. Not even a page, sometimes a paragraph. They don't know the real history of the movement. They don't know what happened after his death. They don't understand that they are actually living his dream because of things that they're doing today and the accomplishments that they have the opportunity to make. They don't understand how so many other people other than Dr. King sacrificed and gave their lives so that today in 2010, young people will have the freedom to do and to be whatever they want to be. That's a history that must be preserved. And when you come to the museum, we remind them that it's not all about what happened with the landmark decisions like Brown versus the Board of Education or the icons of the movement like Rosa Parks or Dr. King. We encourage them to go back home and find out about their own community's history. There are heroes in every community. There are people who sacrificed in every city, in every state when it came to civil rights. You'd be amazed at who lives right next door to you, what they may have gone through, whose grandparents marched with King, whose grandparents helped boycott establishments back in the 60s. So we encourage them to go back and learn about their own history. Start at home. Ask grandmother and grandfather about the civil rights movement in their day. What did they do? How did they embrace some of those changes? What were some of those issues that they had to deal with? Was it about not being able to go through the front door of a restaurant and order food? Was it about not being able to go into a store and try on a pair of shoes because you're black? So young people have to know about the history of this nation. You don't know where you're going unless you know where you've been. And that's what we want them to really go back and learn about. Go back and learn about home first. We preserve this site by contributions from corporate sponsors and from you, our visitors who come here and pay the admission cost to support this historical site. We've been named one of America's treasures by USA Today. Top 10 treasures, listed at number 6, right behind the Statue of Liberty. So it's worth seeing, it's worth coming in, actually seeing how America's civil rights history unfolded. Not just the Southern history, not just the Memphis history, but America's civil rights history. Memphis is soul. Memphis is soul food. Memphis is spirit. Memphis is religion. It's Stax music. It's the Barcades. It's Otis Redding. It's Aretha Franklin. It's barbecue. It's the river. And it's African Americans who make up a majority of this city, who also represented in our public and civic life in leadership.
We got a sports bar, excellent food, guys. So good food and drinks right here at Morgan Freeman's Ground Zero. Come check us out, guys. You'll be glad you did. The world famous Morgan Freeman Ground Zero Blues Club.
A city that I think is so unique in how we embrace our past, but also understand we have a very strong role for the future of this entire state and this nation. So Memphis is a great city. It's on the river. It's a riverboat city, and you can feel that, you can taste that. It's in the music, it's in the food, it's in the people, it's in our Beale Streets experience, and it's right here at this museum as a part of history. This is Gwen Harmon with the National Civil Rights Museum. You are listening and watching the one and only Freedom Radio right here in Memphis, Tennessee.
One thing that stood out was definitely the music and the spirit of the people.